Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Morning Brew, where we have unfiltered conversations, and we're so happy that you joined us today. Well, imagine your dream town. Maybe it's a town where it's hustling and bustling like New York City, or maybe, like me, it might be a town that lies along a beach somewhere. Well, for the Walker family, it's a town that reflects living in South Texas that could be nestled in the ranch lands and is a nice, quiet, planned township. Well, a couple of weeks ago, they announced their family legacy. It's a legacy where they are creating a township called Talise, and that is our topic for today. And today, we're going to break it all down with David Earl. He's our guest today. He's with Earl and Associates, and he has got all the information and answers to the questions that we have. Thank you so much, David, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You know, I want to start by just saying that as someone who grew up in Laredo and Webb County, we're all familiar with, smaller towns other than Laredo that fall within the county. We've got Rio Bravo, we've got El Cenizo. When here in the news, when we received the press release that a new town was starting up, we were all very intrigued by the town. And I want to start there with what a lot of planning and a lot of investment has gone into creating a new town here in Webb County. And I kind of want to take our viewers back to how it all began, if you can do that for us.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, and we're real privileged to be part of this new town. And it started when we were contacted by the Walker family. Rick Walker contacted our firm and asked if we would help build a community that was exceptional. His vision and the vision of the family that was passed on from their forefathers was to build a community that was vibrant, strong, well-planned, built to the highest degree of quality, and have it right here at Laredo. And so we began working on that mission, and a lot of land planning went into it. We sought out and hired I think the best land planner in the nation, Rick Harrison, Design Studios out of Minnesota. And we hired a hydrologist and other people, and the family had a very clear message for me and the other consultants that they brought on board. And that was that they wanted to assure that this project, this township, had an adequate source of water because they're from Laredo. They grew up just down the road. They went to school here. They're lifelong, their family generations from Laredo. And they know that water is a critical part of it. And so we started off with that element of having to prove up a water supply. And through the work of Ellery Water and other consultants and a lot of financial resources being put into well drilling and testing, we were very excited to find that there is an abundant source of groundwater right here beneath our feet. It actually is located in the central part of Webb County, the north part of the county. And once the family confirmed that and were satisfied that the science was there and the hydrology yielded that there would be an abundant source of clean, fresh drinking water, then they cut loose to move forward with the project, and the planning began. And what developed was absolutely amazing. It is a beautifully master planned community. I've been practicing municipal law for over 30 years. And in dealing with cities, I've been city attorney for 9 cities. And every time you have a city, whether it's Laredo or El Cenizo or Rio Bravo or any city, Carrizo Springs, you kind of walk into what you inherit. It grows by bits and pieces over time. It starts with a small village, and then someone develops something, and then someone else develops something, and it's a hodgepodge of developments that come together to form a city. Very rarely, almost never, do you have the opportunity to actually envision and master plan a 13,000 acre community in advance of one thing being developed. And that's what's unique about this, and that's what's been done here. And everything from technology, fiber optic, high-speed internet, road systems, parks, recreational facilities, amenities, commercial, industrial, residential, multifamily, has all been laid out in harmony with each other in a way that just is beautiful. And it's going to be beautiful to see it come out of the ground.
And looking at the plans, David, how long ago did the planning start? Because like you said, it is a very comprehensive town that's very multifaceted. Like you said, it's got the multi-unit living, so apartment complexes,
Yes.
and was it 2 or 3 areas of living with different size lots? Is that correct?
Correct.
So potential residents can choose what their vision is for,
Yes.
for raising families and living. Has this been going on for a few years? Has this
Absolutely. Before we broke ground recently, 3 years ago, the planning process started. And that's how long they've been working at the details to make it just right. And it's a community that someone can move into as a new graduate from high school, get their first job, move into a multifamily or very affordable place to live that's very nice, and be able to work and live there and grow there and have a family there and stay there and move up as they change their position in life and grow with the community and with their own life opportunities. Talise has something for every stage of every family in their life. And it's really going to be a game changer for this area.
I ask about the time frame because I think it was the best kept secret. We hadn't heard of anything like this until we got the press release for the groundbreaking ceremony. What's the timeline in creating the vision out there? Like I said, the map is phenomenal. It looks extremely comprehensive. When can somebody anticipate moving out there, buying a tract of land, and even working? Are there plans for retail already?
Yes, there are. There's a plan. We're making it just like we did with the planning of the development. We're also doing the same thing with the execution and construction of the development. So it's very well planned out. It's phased. It's logical, and it's systematic. So we're starting out in the first phase with some residential, which will be at the Springs of Talise, and these are 5 to 10 acre ranchette type lots with very rich with amenities, community center, public water, fire flow, and these lots will be sold to individuals to build custom and quasi-custom homes on. And that is actually breaking ground now. And those first units, those first lots will be ready later this year. So people can start looking at pre-buying, and there's a website they can go to look at those lots and to contact the developer of that component. We have different developers for different sections because it is so large. And SCON Development is doing that particular portion of the residential. And it's open to any builder as long as they meet certain qualifications. We're trying to protect the customer, and they can build their dream house there. Then with regard to commercial and industrial, we're starting off with the US 83 industrial, which is about a 300-acre industrial park that is being developed out by Stewart Development out of Houston. They're the company that does a lot of the Tesla plants and things like that, a very high-end, respected, and well-known industrial developer. They'll be starting off by building 1.3 million square feet this year into next year of spec development. And that warehouse space will be leased or built to suit for customers in the industrial market. At the same time, we do have a major, I can't disclose the name yet, but I will be able to soon, but a major fueling station, truck fueling station, that'll be going on the project at the corner of 255 and US 83. And if you've seen the lines at some of these gas stations along 35, you know how badly that's needed. But this will be a beautiful station and have multiple restaurants and things like that. It's not going to be your ordinary truck stop. Everything's going to be a very high caliber. In addition, we're starting off with 300 units of workforce housing. So we'll actually provide housing for the workforce that's coming in to build out this community. And those units have, first ones of those have come into the United States. They're being imported and being set up for a workforce village, and making sure that those workers have a very good and comfortable place to live and enjoy while they're building out the community. We're also in phase 1 this year looking at starting a multifamily complex, 300 units. That will be located at the intersection of Webb Road, or near the intersection of Webb Road and 83, in what we call the township. So we have multifamily, we have industrial, we have single family. Later this year, we'll be announcing a partnership with a major builder. And that builder will be building out build-to-rent units, which are beautiful single-family, detached housing units that are extremely reasonable in pricing, that people can move into and live in and enjoy being there, and then move up into their dream home. We're also putting incentive programs in, so someone that does lease there, part of their lease payment goes toward the equity in their first home purchase.
Okay.
So we're thinking through all the details to make the opportunities available as widely as possible to the number of buyers and leasers that are going to be coming to the project.
Well, it sounds like definitely there's been a lot of thought going into it. And like you said, 3 years of planning going to it. David, we're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, though, I do want to talk a little bit about property taxes, school districts,
Yes.
kind of things that folks have been asking about, and also the separation between the industrial portion of Talise and the residential portion of Talise. So we're going to take a quick break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. Everybody. Today we are talking about a new town here in Webb County that is currently being developed. We're talking to David Earl with Earl and Associates. They are a law firm
Yes.
that specializes in economic development. And so we're talking about Talise. It is a planned community, 13,000 acre planned community here in Webb County. And thank you so much for sticking around with us. So let's talk a little bit about the future residents of Talise. So you've got a family and they're interested in living in Talise. What kind of life are they going to have out there? Who does their utilities? What schools do they go to? Who do they pay property taxes to?
Great questions. So the property, the Talise development, the 13,000 acres, is not in the city limits. It's not in the ETJ or extraterritorial jurisdiction of the city. It's all in the unincorporated area of the county. And so when we approached this, like everything else, we wanted to make sure there was a high level of service there. And the county does a great job of serving its taxpayers and residents, but it's at a certain level of service. And this is going to be a different experience. And so we went to the state legislature last session and created what's known as the Legacy Municipal Management District.
Okay.
And a municipal management district is created to supplement the existing services and make them even better in a particular area. In this case, the 13,000 acres, which are the boundaries of that district. So to answer your question, someone that moves into Talise with their family, they will be paying taxes to the county,
Okay.
the school district. It's all within the United Independent School District.
Okay. So they'll be provided bus services. The
Yes.
kids will be picked up, dropped off, all of that.
Correct.
Okay.
And then in addition, they will be paying either a tax or assessment to the LMMD, the Legacy Municipal Management District, for
Is
services.
that like a utility district,
It is
management district?
It is a special district, yes,
Yeah.
created by the legislature. It has all the powers, for the most part, of a city, except for the power of condemnation.
Okay.
So it can have law enforcement, fire protection, all those things, either individually or by assisting the county, for example, in supplementing their services in that area.
So this tax will fund those services in Talise then?
That's correct.
Okay, law enforcement.
Enhanced law enforcement,
Enhanced law
enhanced fire
enforcement.
protection,
Okay.
enhanced security. And the tax rate's very low because it's very organized, it's very efficient, and it's run like a private company almost. Unlike a lot of times governmental entities have a tendency to grow and expand out, and their taxes get diversified to the point where it's hard to really focus them in one area. Here, 100% of the revenue is within this 13,000 acres being used for the enhancement of the project and service to the people. For example, every home in Talise will have high quality drinking water. It'll be served as a drinking water source by the Legacy Municipal Management District. It'll be the retail utility provider within the district.
Okay.
for water, for sewer, for drainage. There'll be gas service, natural gas service within the development. That'll be managed and overseen by the LMMD, but it'll probably be provided by a third-party service provider because that's just what happens in these situations. In addition, we'll have very high-speed internet, fiber to the home. So someone can come and get 10 gigs of fiber capacity in their home, which opens up the opportunity to work from home more efficiently. This particular land planner we hired, he designs communities in a totally different way. He starts with the amenities. He lays out first the parks, the trail systems, looks at the topography and the lay of the land, and that's the priority in this development: open space, parks, community areas. Once those are established and they all work well together, only then does he fill it in with lots and subdivisions and even the industrial commercial areas. So one important factor that you bring up, and Laredo's experienced plenty of this, is a failure to buffer or separate heavy commercial, heavy industrial traffic and enterprise from residential areas.
Right.
Your home should be your sanctuary.
Exactly.
And it's very hard to have a sanctuary when you have to drive through huge trucks and wait in lines for a long time, and then have your visual scape intruded by a lot of industrial surroundings when you're in your home or coming in your subdivision. So we've worked very hard to eliminate that.
How are you going to do that?
So the residential areas are intentionally separated from the industrial areas, not just physically in distance, but also through amenities. The boulevards are different. There's a lot of parks that are put in. We just built a 36-acre lake as a separation barrier between the industrial and residential sections. We'll be planting a lot of beautiful trees. They're high-growing trees, very rare in this area. But it'll make a beautiful, soft, vegetative buffer visually between everything industrial and everything residential. And not just visually, but from a sound element as well. There'll be very intentional landscaping that'll include undulating or moving buffers and landscape mounds, so that visually from one point when you look out, you see trees and landscaping. You don't see buildings that are in another section of the development.
Right.
So it's well thought out, and I think if someone's interested in knowing what that looks like, this project is so high-tech that the entire land plan has been rendered into 3D vision. So you can actually look at a lot in this subdivision that you may want to buy and walk into a theoretical house that's on that lot and look out the window and see what's going to be your view in the future.
Wow.
And that's all done through Rick Harrison's proprietary programs. But those links are going to be available on the Talise website, so the people, it's like playing a video game. You can walk through the development, see it. Now it's rendered, but it's very accurate. So you'll be able to see what it's like in advance of ever being there, in a virtual sense.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about the airport? We saw that there's going to be an airport out there too.
Yes.
What size airport are we talking about?
So it's a large airport. It's a multimodal airport. It is not it's not meant to compete at all with Laredo's airport. Just the opposite. It should free up airspace and terminal space at the current airport for more passenger traffic, hopefully direct flights.
Well, I was going to ask, is this for people like you and I, commercial, or is this industrial, or what kind of
It's
flights?
basically not for commercial air travel.
Okay.
That is Laredo's niche, and that's what Laredo does very well, and we want to encourage that. It is for heavy industrial air traffic that Laredo currently cannot handle. You have to have 11 to 12,000 feet of runway to land a fully loaded, what they call a heavy 737. This runway of this particular airport will be over 11,000 feet. So anything can land there with regard to cargo aircraft. In addition, separate and apart, but next to that, will be a smaller executive airport strip for private air traffic.
That'd be like your signature and
Exactly, yes,
charter.
like an executive airport.
Right.
And the really cool thing is, next to that will be residential, but it's aviation residential, meaning that every lot has access to a private taxiway, and you can build your own private hangar on your lot with your home, keep your plane in that hangar like you do with your car in your garage, and when you want to go somewhere, open the hangar, taxi out, taxi right to the runway, and go. And that's a concept that's very attractive, especially to people from Central, South America, anywhere in the United States. I can tell you that having to come to places like Laredo, where there's no direct flights, all around the valley, Corpus Christi, other places we practice, I had to get my pilot's license because it's so hard to get a direct flight anywhere. And having that capability of travel for those who can do it is a real blessing. And it's going to attract a lot of businesses whose executives want to live on site, but have easy access to air travel in their private aircraft or corporate aircraft to be able to go and come as they need to. Eventually, we're looking at working with U.S. Border and Customs Protection Services to put an actual customs office at this airport to clear customs directly, not just from the United States, but we're also going to enter into talks with Mexico to see if we can co-locate customs like they do at the Port of Las Cardenas, so that industrial and even executive travel can do their entry and departure customs work for Mexico and the United States all at one place.
Interesting. This is, of course, the commercial industrial side of it, which you say is going to be separated from the residential side of it.
Correct.
So,
Except
okay.
for the residential aviation,
Exactly.
which is really a nice buffer mechanism, because those people don't mind being next to an airport.
Right. That's exactly what they're
That's
looking
what they
for.
want, yes.
That's what they're looking for.
And it's hard to find.
Okie doke. Well, David, we're going to take another really quick break, but when we come back, I do have a couple of more questions about folks who live out there, and then I want to touch a little bit on the water source.
Yes.
Very important, definitely. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. We are talking with David Earl of Earl and Associates. They are a law firm out of San Antonio that focuses on economic development, and they are working with the Walker family in establishing the Talise Township that is located in Webb County, just north of Laredo. And we've been talking a little bit about the amenities, a little bit about how the city is going to be structured. I wanted to talk a little bit about getting to and from the township of Talise. You know, people who might move out there might have jobs here in Laredo, and just talk a little bit about the transportation, how to get to and from there, and what is in the pipeline for that.
That's a great question. We've been working very closely with TxDOT and even the city master plan concept for major thoroughfare plans, as well as even the state of Leon, Mexico, with regard to the bridge, Columbia Bridge. This property was selected by the forefathers of the current generation of the Walker family because it sits at the crossroads of I-35, US 83, and Highway 255 coming from the Columbia Bridge. So all bridges lead to this point, and even the future 4-5 bridge will lead to this point through the outer loop that will be built in the future. So it is the combination of all those points. And so access to this property and from it will be very easy. And to make sure it's easy, we're planning flyovers and interfaces that don't require you to stop and wait for traffic. It will let you just merge right into 255, 83, and 35. But more than that, the Walker family has been working with TxDOT to donate literally tens of millions of dollars of right-of-way to facilitate the I-35 expansion to 6 lanes to reduce traffic, to allow for and encourage the expansion of US 83 into the Super 27 highway, the Ports to Plains. And we're working with the Ports to Plains Coalition, Lauren, who's the director, and his staff, to help make the first mile of that US 27, where it intersects with 35 and goes through the Walker development, through the Talise Township, the example of what it's supposed to look like. So we're trying to do everything right there, but people who live there will have a multitude of options to get in and out of Laredo, and can do so by vehicle, either directly down 35, 83, come back to, they're going to Mines Road, for example, 255, and then there's a new Rethinger Road that will be connecting to give access in 2 directions to the Mines Road area, both to relieve traffic there, but also to make it more accessible to those who choose to live in Talise.
So for folks who think that right now Talise is just a little too far north, there's no way to get to it, all of this is coming about in the next few years or so, where it's just going to be an explosion of different highways and byways,
Yes.
if I can use that term, to get to and from the northern part
Yeah, exactly.
of the county.
In fact, TxDOT has already approved and funded the construction of those segments of roadways I was just talking about. And so those projects are actually being let now and will continue to be built out over the next few years. And we're real excited about that and want to work with TxDOT on that. So this will tie into the outer loop. And basically anywhere you live, well, anywhere you work in Laredo, you're going to be able to access relatively quickly from this property. Even today, if you're in the heart of Talise, the township, the future town square, the placa or plaza of Talise, you can get down to, off 35, you can get down to the nearest HEB in about 10 minutes.
Wow.
So there's not really a barrier. In San Antonio, I live in Helotes. It's very similar, right? You have a community outside a community. I live in Helotes. Our office is in San Antonio. It takes me 35 minutes to get to work every day and 35 or 40 minutes to get home. In Talise, you're at work or at the store now in 10 minutes, but soon those amenities will be right at your doorstep.
Wow. In the few minutes that we have left, David, let's talk a little bit about the water source, because you're sourcing water for Talise from an aquifer, from the Carrizo aquifer, and an additional aquifer as well. Very different from where Laredo gets their water.
Correct.
How are you able to tap into this water, and how is it going to provide water for Talise?
It's a great question. So as we all know, the Rio Grande River is very vulnerable to drought, vulnerable to use from Mexico, and other factors. And so when we looked at the water availability to do this project, as I mentioned earlier, the Rio Grande just wasn't a suitable solution at all for it. In fact, I think last night on the news it was announced that Falcon and Amistad Lakes are at their lowest level in history.
Which is why we are in a conservation program
Exactly.
right now, stage
Exactly.
3.
So we had to look elsewhere, and the most logical place was the groundwater. But historically people have said, well, it's too hard to get groundwater, there's no good groundwater. But most people have drilled more shallow wells, I say shallow, 1,000 feet or less, and they access an aquifer called the Sparta Aquifer. That aquifer has some fairly good water in it, and the further north you go, the better the water gets, just like with the Carrizo. So the experience of most people in the general Laredo area, south of this property, is that when you drill wells for water, you get bad water or very, very polluted water. However, geophysically, hydrologically, there is a separation, and we found this through our hydrological testing. We actually have 3D models of the aquifer system now that LRE prepared. And you can see the fault lines that separate the flow of the good water from the stagnation of the prehistoric or bad water in the southern pool of Webb County. So where people had been drilling historically and getting bad water, we realized we drilled up to the north and we've got beautiful water. And so the water's there. And the exciting thing is it's very close to Laredo. So we drilled these wells that were first in the Sparta, and we pump tested and checked the hydrology, and we found the Sparta was too fickle. Too many people are in it, and it doesn't recover as well. Someone can turn a pump on over here and it'll affect the depth of your water in your well over here. So we weren't satisfied with that as a solution. So we went further, deeper, and we drilled wells 4,500 feet deep into the deep Carrizo sand aquifer. And what we found was amazing. The water there is extremely clean. To give you an example, the state standard for drinking water, and I've been a water lawyer also for the last 35 years. I was in-house counsel for SAW, so I'm very familiar with it. The state drinking water minimum standard for TDS, total dissolved solids, which is the amount of sodium in the water, is 1,000 milligrams per liter. This water had 1,100 milligrams. So the state would allow that to be drinking water with a waiver request, but we're not doing that. We're treating that water, not just treating it, but actually treating it through reverse osmosis. So it is extremely clean, in fact so clean that you have to add minerals back to it. And that's the type of water that will be at Talise, in every yard, in every home, in every fire hydrant. And that's the type of water we are wanting to bring through the Water Supply Corporation in cooperation with the county and the city to the colonias and to the city of Laredo.
We're going to talk a little bit about that at a city council meeting that's taking place later on today. So we look forward to hearing more about that presentation, of course, and the proposal that y'all are offering for a secondary water source. I have my final question, David, is, well, two final questions. Is Talise a competitor of Laredo in any way or form?
You know, I don't believe that it is. I think that Talise actually complements Laredo. And our whole intention, I can tell you the intention of the Walker family is not to compete against Laredo. Let me tell you, without Laredo, Talise wouldn't exist. Without Laredo being stronger, healthier, more vibrant, Talise would have a hard time becoming stronger, healthier, and growing to what its potential is. So we're like this. We're like two children in the same family, and we have to make sure the family's strong. And so Talise offers a lot of benefits and something different to the Laredo region, but it doesn't take away from the quality and the history and the culture of Laredo. And in fact, it is what will make Laredo continue to be able to grow. The water, the expansion of their city limits. We've been working with the city manager, who I think is a brilliant man, to come up with an overall economic development strategy and agreement to make Talise and the LMMD and the city of Laredo and the county all complement each other and work cooperatively together, which is frankly a very good thing, but a rather new concept in Laredo. And I think it's long overdue. I think with the current county government we have under Judge Gideon and his commission, and this current city council we have in Laredo, and this new group of Talise, we can come together to make the whole region better and stronger and continue to grow long into the future. So I don't think it's competition. I think it's collaboration and complement one another in the future.
Okay. Well, you answered my second question as well on the relationship with the Talise and Laredo. So with that, I really appreciate you traveling here from San Antonio to talk a little bit more about Talise and kind of giving us the lay of the land, if I can use that expression, on how it's going to work. And we do look forward to seeing the township develop over the next few months and next few years. Thank you so much, David, for joining us.
Thank you, and thank you for the service you provide in educating your viewers with this information. And we're very grateful for your station.
Appreciate that. And with that, that does it for this episode of Morning Brew, but make sure to catch us next week for another episode. Have a great one.